As you start to understand the 24 count more, you'll start to realize that 24 count with the staff is identical to the 24 count with the stick. The difference is with the staff, we're forced to use two hands. So with that, if the staff seems a little bit difficult for your coordination, go back to the 24 count with the stick and learn it with your offhand. My dominant hand is really smart. My non-dominant hand, it might be a little bit slower. If I can get it to catch up with my dominant hand, all of a sudden the staff is going to become easier. So we're going to start this with a forward grip. That's going to be grabbing the center of the staff with both of my fingers, sets of fingers pointing straight down. And I'm going to step forward with my dominant foot, and I'm going to put that staff out in front of me. Angle one, I'm going to bring the staff up to my right shoulder, and then I'm going to push one side of the staff down while I pull the opposite side of the staff up to create power and strike all the way through. Advantages, as I'm pulling the other side of the staff up, it's putting it up to my shoulder and preparing me for the angle two. Same thing, I'm pushing and I'm pulling same time. That's going to get the staff to come up so we can continue. So let's try 5 of these, starting from this neutral position. Right side first, up to the shoulder, down to angle 1. Other side to the shoulder, down to angle 2. 2, bring it back in front. 3, 4, 5, 8. You're going to notice with all of these that there is a teeter-totter type effect, whereas one side is moving, the other side doesn't just sit there, it's also got action. That's the same with 3 and 4. So from our forward grip, number 3 is coming from the right side, but I'm actually using my stomach even almost as a teeter-totter fulcrum. I'm going to push the right side forward, I'm going to pull the left side back. With the next one, I'm then going to let that side bounce back. I'm going to pull the right, and I'm going to push the left to strike through. Once I'm done, I'm going to bring it back in front of me. Let's try 5 of those. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Angle 5 and 6 brings us to our low and then our downward stab. So starting with the forward grip with the dominant side forward, I'm going to swing the staff over to my right hand side. This is my dominant side. From there, I'm going to take my forward hand and drop back to my waist so I can get as much forward thrust out of it as I could possibly get. Once I've thrust forward, I want to make sure that I pull it straight back. The second angle, I'm going to bring the hand up next to my cheek. And I'm not just stabbing straight, but I'm stabbing down at an angle. Again, I'm trying to come down to the space between the collarbone and the scapula. As I follow through all the way next to my hip, that's going to give me more power as well as a secondary strike right here. So let's try 5 of these. Ready? 1, turning the hips and shoulders, stabbing low, drawing it back, next to the cheek, stabbing downward and all the way through, then bringing it back to a neutral position. 2, turn, stab low, stab down, bring it back. 3, 4, 5, 8. 7 and 8 are now going to be done over on this side where we wrapped up number 6. So starting with the forward grip with the dominant side forward, I'm already going to have my staff starting on my left side. You can even go from the neutral position and just swing it over here. This next technique is really good for any time you've done any of these kind of angles and you miss. What you're simply going to do is teeter-totter it back, and you're going to slap with the back side of it. And I'm going to pull my elbow back so I get a bunch of power in that. Once I've done that, I'm going to bring it back in front of me. I'm going to take my hand next to my cheek, same downward thrust, but I'm going to come from the other angle. I'm stabbing downward and then following all the way through. When I'm done, I'm going to return it back to a neutral position. Let's try 5 of these. Ready? 1, swinging it over to the side. I'm going to pull it back, draw it in, hand next to my cheek, striking all the way down, coming back in front. 2. 3, turning your hips and shoulders. 4. 5. Angles 9 and 10 are the same as angles 1 and 2, but they're going to be lower. So starting with the forward grip with the dominant side forward, anytime I'm striking low, I don't want to extend my arms down and extend my head forward. Instead, I want to lower my center of gravity by bending my knees. So angle 9, I bring it next to my shoulder, but then I drop my whole body to hit right on top of the outside of the leg. Then I take the other side. Notice my body's going to rise. I'm going to use the power of my body to drive that staff down. When I'm done, I'm going to return it to a neutral position. This is always a good position to train to come back to. So let's try 5 of these. Ready? 1, angle 9, come back up, angle 10, then return to a neutral position. 2, 3, 4, 5. Technique 11 and 12 forms a figure 8 similar to the one that you learned at Purple Belt, but a little bit different. Instead of the reverse grip, we're going to be using this one from the forward grip, and we're going to be going from our dominant side forward. In this case, you're going to see a teeter-totter effect happening. I'm starting thinking about the right side. I'm going to drop the right side down next to my foot, and it's going to drive in an upward angle next to the opposite shoulder. Now, you'll notice when that happens, that's driving the opposite side of the staff down, which actually sets it up to drive in the opposite direction. And if I do both of them, you can see how one leads me into the next, and that creates our figure 8. Let's try 5 of them together. Again, I'm on dominant side forward, my right foot forward, and I'm in a forward grip holding the center of the staff. Ready? 1. Back to ready. 2. 3. 4. 5. Kia. 13 and 14 are aiming at the temples or across the top of the forehead. So starting again from our forward grip, we're going to have our dominant side forward holding the staff out in front of me. I'm using this teeter-totter. This is a common thing here at the staff. I pull one side and the other side drives out. In this case, it's going to be up at an angle aiming for the head. As soon as I'm done, I'll pull that side back, which pushes the other side out to create the opposite angle. So follow along with me. We're going to do that 5 times. Starting with ready position, I'm on right foot forward. Ready? 1. 2. Notice how I'm turning my hips and shoulders, not just my arms. 3. 4. 5. Kia. Angles 15 and 16 are going to be the downward circles that you learned at Purple Belt. So if this coordination proves to be a little bit of a challenge, that's okay. Go back to the Purple Belt videos, check out the downward circles with the staff, and it'll start to make more sense. We're going to do this from the forward grip with the dominant side forward, but it's going to switch halfway through. I'm going to start by bringing the staff over to my right-hand side. To start the circle, I'm going to be pushing down with the left hand, but then I'm just going to let go with the right hand. And look, it turned into a circle. Now I just have to figure out where I'm going to catch it. So once it's finished its first rotation and I've caught it with the thumb, it's starting to wrap up, I'm going to catch it above my head and then I'm going to drive it down like an angle number 2 that we did earlier. When I'm done, I'm going to return the hand to the forward grip and return my body back to the neutral position. Let's try 5 of those. Ready? 1. Turn the hips and shoulders, circle down, catch above the head, angle 2, and then return back to a neutral position. 2, turn, downward circle, catch it to an angle, back to neutral. 3, 4, 5, 8. Angle 17 is the upward thrust. It's the initial forward thrust that might be changed to an upward thrust as it's deflected off of armor. So starting from the forward grip with the dominant side forward, I'm going to swing the staff over to my right side. I'm going to start with it just like we did in the other thrust with the hand right next to my hip so I can give it the maximum thrust to go forward with. But this time, as I'm thrusting forward, I'm also going to take the right side of the staff. I'm going to lift it up for going underneath the chin. So it'd be a double strike, maybe going underneath the armor or underneath the helmet and then snapping the head back. Let's try 5 of these. Ready? 1. Turn the hips and shoulders to get the staff over there. Thrust forward and then up. Return back to a neutral position. 2. Hips and shoulders, forward and up. 3. 4. 5. 8. Angles 18 and 19 are going to be the inside circle from purple belt. So again, if the coordination of this feels a little funny, that's all right. Just go back and practice your purple belt techniques a little bit more, and all of a sudden these staff techniques will become a little bit easier. So starting with the forward grip with the dominant side forward, I'm this time going to bring the staff over to my left-hand side. Here's how the circle is going to work. I'm going to be pushing down with the front hand and then letting go with the back hand. And look, that just turned it right into a circle. Now I just have to figure out where I'm going to catch it. So as I bring it over and I push it down, my left hand is going to catch it with the palm up. I'm catching it with the thumb, just like we did at purple belt. I make the fist. As the other side rotates up, I'm going to catch it right above my head, and then I'm going to drive it down just like the angle 1 we did earlier. Only this time I'm going from a reverse grip for the angle 1 instead of the forward grip that we did for the angle 1. Let's try 5 of these, starting from the forward grip. Ready? 1. Bring it to the left side, swing it down, catch it above the head, drive it down for an angle 1. Back to a neutral position. 2, over the left side, turn the hips. Rotate down, catch above, come to an angle. 3, downward, angle. 4, 5, 8. Return back to a neutral position. Angles 20 and 21 are going back to our 2 high stabs. And in this case, we're going to use a different grip. We're going to be using our reverse grip. So this reverse grip I'm going to be doing with my dominant hand. My right side palm is going to be up. My other hand, the left side, is going to be facing down. I'm going to have my dominant side forward, and the staff is in front of me with the tip of it always pointing towards my opponent and threatening him. From here, it simply comes up next to the cheek for number 20, and then it's going to thrust straight out and then thrust straight back. Notice I don't want to have this action going. I want it to be level all the way through. That's why I'm using 2 hands. Once I've pulled it back next to my cheek, I'm then going to push and pull the staff. It's going to rotate above my head, and the back of my hand is now going to come to my other cheek. Notice how, again, it's making this little ox horn coming off the top of my head. From there, I want to keep the staff level. I want to thrust it out and pull it back. And then I'm going to return it back to a neutral position with the tip pointing towards my opponent. Let's try 5 of these. Forward grip, right side forward. Ready? 1, hand next to the cheek, out, back, rotate above the head, back the hand against the cheek, out, back, and then return to a neutral position. 2, next to the cheek, use your hips and shoulders, rotate it. Use your hips and shoulders, back to neutral. 3, 4, Angles 22 and 23 are going back to our helicopter, the same coordination that we learned at Purple Belt. So for this one, I'm going to be starting with my reverse grip. That's going to be my dominant side palm up. My non-dominant side palm is going to be down. I'm going to have my dominant foot forward. This time, though, I'm going to be starting with the staff underneath my right armpit. So to complete the angle of 22, I'm going to lift the staff up above my head, and I want to keep it level like a helicopter as I swing the right side around to smack my opponent's left temple on my right side. Notice I don't want to just hit the temple, but I want to strike all the way through to the other side of my opponent. From there, to get angle 23, I'm going to lift the staff up. Again, I want it to be nice and level like a helicopter blade. I'm going to pull it down into my right armpit. I'm going to strike the other side. And we can just loop this. So let's try 5 of them. So remember, we're in our reverse grip, right side forward, and it's underneath my right armpit. Ready? 1, swing it around the head like a helicopter blade, striking the right side, pulling it back, above the head like a helicopter blade, striking the left side. Bring it back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Angle 24 is the big two-handed overhead strike. This one's going to be the helmet cracker. So we're still using that reverse grip. My dominant side, palm is facing up. My reverse side is my non-dominant side facing down. I have the staff over here on my left-hand side. So for this one, to gain some extra leverage, as I raise the staff above my head, the reverse hand is going to slide down towards the bottom of the staff. Want you to notice I'm not going all the way to the bottom. I still want to leave a little bit that I can use as a tool. You'll also notice how far apart that spreads my hand. That's going to give me the leverage to pull and then push to do that downward strike. My front hand is going to slide next to my back hand. Same time I do that, I want to bend my knees. I want to put my body weight down behind this strike. Once I've struck all the way through, I'll turn to the side so you can see this. To return my staff to the neutral position, the back hand pulls the staff, and then the front hand grips while the back hand returns to its position next to the hip. Let's try 5 of these. Again, from the reverse grip, dominant side forward. Ready? 1, raise the staff, back hand slides, front hand slides while the knees bend. When we're done, back hand pulls and then slides. 2, raise it up, slide it down. Slide, slide. 3. 4. 5. 8. Once you're comfortable with the flow of the 24 count, it's really important that you figure out how to start moving your feet at the same time. It can be difficult to be focusing on the staff and the feet at the same time, but if you're in a stick fight, a knife fight, or a sword fight, and your feet are glued to the ground, you're in trouble. You have to be able to move from the spot that your opponent thinks you're standing in. So for this one, I'm going to be starting with my reverse grip or my forward grip, but I'm going to be starting with my left foot forward. The idea of this first exercise is to try to teach the body how to drive power towards the weapon. So with my very first technique, the number 1 is coming in this downward direction. I'm going to use the step of my foot to drive that direction. Technique number 2 is coming down from this way. I'm going to use the step of the same foot to move me back, and that drives that power. And you're going to see that teeter-totter kind of flow going through the whole thing. This next exercise will be the 24 count with a fixed step movement. It's called a fixed step because I'm going to be fixing one foot to the ground while the other foot drives the power of the exercise. So starting from my reverse grip, my forward grip rather, with both of my hands facing down, I'm going to be starting with my right foot back because the power of the staff starting from the right side. I'm using my steps to drive the power, so I step forward, step backward, step forward, step backward. Stay in your spot for 5. I'm going to step forward for 6. Stay in my spot for 7. I'm going to step back for 8. Step forward, step backward. Step forward, step backward. Step forward, step backward. I'm going to keep my space, but then I'm going to step forward for number 17. Keep my space. And from there, I can come back and I can start over again if I want to. And you can just keep repeating the exercise over and over until you're comfortable with it to where you can talk and do it at the same time. The next exercise is the 24 count with a moving step. I'm going to be utilizing a stick just because of the amount of limited space that I have, but again, this exercise is interchangeable between the stick or the staff. We want you to practice it with both. You want to get very comfortable moving the stick and your feet at the same time. The moving step is called the moving step because I'm going to be switching my steps each time. Sometimes my right foot's going to lead the power, sometimes my left foot's going to lead the power. Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to be starting with my left foot forward. The stick is going to be in my right hand with the right side back because the right side is driving the power first. I'm going to be stepping forward with each one of these strikes. I step forward to drive power to 1. I step forward to drive power to 2. Step forward for 3, 4. For 5, I'm going to stay in my space, but for 6, I'm going to step forward to drive power. 7's supposed to be fast, but 8, I want to get a little bit more power. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, I'm going to stay in the same spot, but 17, I'm going to step forward to drive power. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, I grab it in both hands and I step back for 24. Once you're comfortable with that movement going forward, you then want to try that movement going backward. I'm starting from the same position. My left foot's going to be forward. The stick is going to start in my right hand with my right foot backward. That's the direction the power is going to come from first. But now I'm using backward power to drive power to the stick. So I step back for 1, then I step back for 2. I step back to add power to 3 and to add power to 4. But for 5, I'm going to stay in my space. For 6, I'm going to step back. 7's supposed to be quick, but 8, I want to have power. 9 and 10, I step backward. 11 and 12, I step backward. 13 and 14, I step backward. 15 and 16, I hold my space, but 17, I'm going to step back for. 18 and 19, I'm going to hold my space. 20 and 21, I'm going to hold my space. Helicopter, I stay in the same spot, but now when I go to grab the other end, I'm going to do my 24, I'm going to reverse it and step forward. And then I can repeat the process going right back into the forward walking. Do it a couple of times going forward, do it a couple of times going backwards, and then you can even mix the two up where you're going stepping forward, stepping backward, stepping forward, stepping backward. And you can mix it up between a couple forward steps and a couple of backward steps. The more you mix up the footwork, the smarter your hands and feet are going to become.